Nearly 300 feet below the surface of the Gulf of Bothnia, the sonar suddenly showed an astonishing image.
The Baltic Sea has long been a graveyard of secrets, sunken ships, lost cargo, and whispered legends. But in 2011, divers stumbled upon something that shook the world, a massive disc-shaped anomaly on the seabed, so bizarre that many questioned whether it was even natural. Now, more than a decade later, divers have returned to those frigid depths, only to uncover something even more disturbing. Another anomaly, larger, stranger, and far more dangerous, has emerged from the shadows. But what could it be? A relic of human history, or something not of this earth? Stay with us as we find out. The Baltic Sea is not a forgiving place. Cold, murky, and unpredictable, its waters conceal countless mysteries beneath the shifting sands. In 2011, a Swedish diving team known as Ocean X gained worldwide attention when they reported a bizarre disc-shaped formation on the seabed. Images showed something that looked eerily artificial, with straight lines, right angles, and features no natural rock should display. Scientists dismissed it as a glacial deposit, but others were convinced it was a craft, something ancient, maybe even extraterrestrial. For years, debate raged, but in the shadow of that first anomaly, another mystery was quietly waiting. In the spring of 2025, Ocean X returned, determined to re-examine the original site with new equipment, advanced sonar, and a decade of unanswered questions pushing them forward. What they didn't expect was that their search would take them several kilometers away from the known anomaly and into uncharted territory.
And one thing I find very strange is that we'll have this hard surface.
Sonar scans revealed something strange, buried under layers of sediment. At first, it seemed like a shadow on the screen, a trick of the equipment. But as the divers adjusted their instruments, the shape began to emerge in horrifying clarity. It was larger than the first anomaly, far more complex, and spread across a wider area, as if some colossal structure had been lying dormant beneath the sea for centuries. The team marked the coordinates and descended. Visibility was poor, currents were strong, and every piece of equipment groaned against the pressure of the deep. Yet, when their lights swept across the seabed, all doubts vanished. Rising from the ocean floor was a massive formation that did not belong, a structure with jagged ridges, geometric patterns, and impossible precision. One diver later described it as like staring into the ruins of something that should not exist. And unlike the first anomaly, this one radiated a presence, silent, foreboding, and almost hostile. The divers could hardly believe what they were seeing. The first Baltic anomaly had been strange enough, a disc-shaped object, 26 meters wide, resembling a crashed spacecraft or perhaps an ancient temple lost to time. But this second discovery defied explanation. Instead of a single formation, it seemed to be an entire structure, sprawling across the seabed like the skeleton of a long-dead giant. Their floodlights revealed towering ridges that stretched upward like the broken walls of a fortress. Carved into the stone, or metal, as some divers insisted, were grooves that ran in perfectly straight lines, intersecting at angles too precise for nature to create. The seabed around it was scarred, as though something massive had once crashed or been dragged into place. Even more unsettling was the scale. The new anomaly was nearly 3 times larger than the original, with portions buried deep in sediment. As divers swam closer, they reported feeling a strange pressure in their ears, far stronger than what should have been caused by depth alone. Their compasses began to spin erratically, their communication devices crackled, and one diver even blacked out for several seconds before being revived. Back on the surface, the sonar operators were equally baffled. The formation reflected signals in unnatural patterns, almost as if it were absorbing and redirecting sound waves. In some scans, the anomaly appeared to have vast hollow chambers beneath it, cavities so large they could have concealed entire aircraft. Speculation spread quickly. Was this a natural formation shaped by the Ice Age? Or could it be evidence of an ancient civilization lost to history? Some even dared to suggest that it was part of a much larger craft, something that had broken apart upon impact thousands of years ago. Yet the most terrifying thought came not from what they saw, but from what they felt. Several divers later admitted, in hushed tones, that the closer they swam to the structure, the stronger and overwhelming sense of dread overcame them. It was like being watched, one recalled, like something down there was alive and waiting. The discovery of this second anomaly sent shockwaves through the diving community, but for those who remembered the 2011 find, the sense of déjà vu was undeniable. Back then, when Ocean X first revealed their sonar images of the disc-shaped object, skeptics were quick to dismiss it as a natural rock formation. Glacial deposit, they said. Basalt outcrop. Nothing unusual. But even then, there were details that didn't quite fit. Divers had reported strange malfunctions near the first anomaly. Equipment shutting down, cameras flickering, and even compasses spinning wildly. Samples retrieved from the site contained metals rarely found in seabed rock, sparking theories that the formation wasn't entirely natural. Some even claimed that the first anomaly emitted weak electrical signals, as though it were still functioning on some level. Now, standing before the second, much larger anomaly, those same patterns were reappearing. Divers experienced sudden equipment failures. Their sonar scans returned scrambled images, and batteries drained faster than usual. The parallels were impossible to ignore. It was as if the two sites were connected, echoing each other across time and space. Some researchers began to wonder whether the first anomaly had been only a fragment, a broken piece of something much greater. What if the two were parts of a single structure, split apart in some ancient cataclysm? Or worse, what if the Baltic seabed was littered with such formations, hidden beneath layers of sand and silt, waiting to be uncovered? The divers compared notes, and a chilling realization emerged. The shapes of both anomalies seemed to complement each other. Where the first had grooves and circular depressions, the second had protrusions and ridges that, if mapped together, almost looked like pieces of a massive puzzle. When satellite imaging was brought into the investigation, another disturbing fact surfaced. The coordinates of both anomalies aligned along a straight axis that pointed directly toward ancient trade routes. Routes once sailed by the Vikings, who told legends of sunken fortresses in the sea that no ship dared approach. Could it be that these stories weren't myth after all? That the Vikings, and perhaps even older civilizations, knew of these anomalies? The echoes of the past were becoming louder, and the unanswered question lingered in the salty air. What exactly lies beneath the Baltic Sea? The deeper Ocean X probed the second anomaly. The stranger the phenomena became. While sonar scans painted the outline of vast hollow chambers, hydrophones, sensitive underwater microphones, began picking up odd bursts of sound. At first, the team thought it was ordinary ocean noise, shifting ice, distant ships, or marine life. But when the recordings were analyzed, the signals revealed patterns, repeated pulses, strange harmonics, and frequencies that fell just outside the normal range of marine acoustics. One diver described hearing the sounds even without the equipment. "It was like a low hum in my bones," he admitted, his voice shaking in the interview. Others reported sharp ringing in their ears when approaching the structure, as if the anomaly itself was emitting vibrations that penetrated human senses. Scientists consulted about the recordings were baffled. The frequencies appeared too structured to be natural, resembling coded transmissions rather than random noise. Some suggested that the anomaly might be geologically active, a resonance caused by trapped gases or shifting stone. But others weren't convinced. The timing of the pulses, they argued, resembled communication, like sonar pings sent deliberately. What disturbed the crew most was that these signals were not localized to the second anomaly. Instruments placed near the first formation picked up faint echoes of the same sound, as if the two sites were somehow linked across the seabed. The notion that these massive objects could be transmitting, or worse, responding to one another, ignited panic. Back on land, when experts cross-referenced the frequencies with global databases, they found similarities to mysterious ocean sounds recorded in the 1990s, such as the infamous bloop, which had baffled NOAA researchers for years. Could it be that these anomalies had been resonating all along, their signals escaping detection until now? Even stranger, the pulses seemed to react when divers approached. Instruments spiked unpredictably, and the rhythms shifted, almost as if the anomaly was aware of their presence. The crew began whispering nervously about intelligence, about something beneath the Baltic Sea that might not just be an object, but an active entity. And if it was transmitting, the most terrifying question arose: who or what was listening on the other end? As daylight broke above the waves, the divers reviewed their footage, and one detail froze them in silence. The shape of the second anomaly was geometrically impossible for a natural formation. While the first anomaly had resembled a crude disk, this one bore architectural precision. It had right-angled corridors, smooth surfaces, and a symmetry that defied natural geology. Photographs showed a central tower-like protrusion rising from its surface, surrounded by concentric ridges. The structure seemed engineered, not carved by ice or water. Even skeptics on the team admitted the design looked intentional. "It's too perfect," one geologist muttered. "This isn't random." Comparisons were quickly drawn to ancient architecture, Mesopotamian ziggurats, Mayan temples, even the lost ruins of Atlantis. But none of those explained how such a colossal structure could end up at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, half buried under millennia of sediment. The age estimates were equally baffling. Samples suggested mineral deposits consistent with the last ice age, but certain metallic traces hinted at something far younger, as if the anomaly had been disturbed or altered in recent centuries. Divers who swam through its outer ridges reported something unsettling. Their flashlights illuminated long grooves resembling staircases, too even and deliberate to be natural cracks. Some even found circular openings large enough for a human to crawl through, leading into pitch-black tunnels that seemed to descend deeper into the seabed. But the most chilling revelation came from aerial mapping. When the outline of the structure was traced against the coordinates of the first anomaly, the shapes mirrored one another, forming what looked disturbingly like two halves of a larger whole. If combined, they would form a vast, symmetrical design stretching kilometers across the seafloor. For many, this was the breaking point. The idea that nature had coincidentally sculpted two matching, interlocking anomalies was nearly impossible to accept. The evidence pointed towards something intentional, whether human or not. As the divers prepared for another descent, one question burned in their minds. If this was built, then who built it? And why had it been hidden beneath the Baltic Sea for so long? The deeper the divers explored the second anomaly, the more hostile the environment became. At first, the malfunctions seemed like minor inconveniences, cameras flickering, communication lines buzzing with static, and oxygen gauges giving inconsistent readings. But as the dives continued, the failures grew impossible to ignore. On the third descent, an entire lighting rig failed just as the divers reached the central ridge. Their surroundings plunged into darkness, forcing them to retreat before completing their scan. Back on the ship, engineers confirmed the equipment was fully charged before deployment, yet the batteries had drained as though they had been magnetically pulled dry. The most disturbing malfunction came during a dive near one of the tunnel-like openings. A diver's wrist compass began spinning wildly, refusing to settle. His backup compass did the same. Then, his depth gauge froze, showing the same reading for minutes at a time before abruptly recalibrating. When he surfaced, technicians found no mechanical faults. The instruments had simply stopped obeying the laws of physics. Worse still were the personal accounts. Several divers complained of sudden disorientation, as if the water itself was twisting around them. One described feeling a vibration through his wetsuit, like standing near a massive generator. Another claimed that, for a moment, his radio picked up a faint whispering sound, not static, but voices, speaking in an unintelligible language. When the crew tried to bring remotely operated vehicles into the anomaly's vicinity, the machines fared no better. Drones lost connection within minutes, their feeds dissolving into scrambled pixels before cutting out completely. Some never resurfaced at all. The pattern was undeniable. The closer they came to the heart of the anomaly, the stronger the interference became. It was as if the structure emitted a field, a sphere of influence that disrupted technology and bent the rules of ordinary operation. Skeptics argued it might be natural magnetism, remnants of iron ore deposits beneath the seabed. But the precision and intensity of the disruptions told another story. Natural anomalies didn't drain batteries in minutes, they didn't erase entire digital recordings, and they certainly didn't whisper in the ears of terrified divers. The sea was not just hiding this anomaly, it was protecting it, and perhaps keeping intruders out. Got it, Victor. Here's the expanded chapters 7 to 9. Each rewritten to be strictly 500 words, while keeping the same dramatic and discovery-focused style. The deeper the Ocean X crew studied their data, the harder it became to deny what was staring back at them. The two Baltic anomalies were not random curiosities, but pieces of something larger, two halves of a mystery that stretched far beyond their isolated positions on the seabed. At first, skeptics scoffed at the idea. How could two separate objects, discovered more than a decade apart, possibly be related? But when the sonar overlays were examined side by side, the patterns were undeniable. Both anomalies, though kilometers apart, aligned perfectly along a straight axis. This wasn't just a casual alignment either. The line extended in precise orientation toward ancient maritime routes, once used by Vikings and earlier civilizations. Historians noted that sagas from that era spoke of paired fortresses beneath the sea that no sailor dared approach. Suddenly, Those ancient warnings seemed less like superstition and more like fragments of real encounters. The eerie resonance between the anomalies added fuel to the fire. Whenever the second sight pulsed with its strange harmonic tones, faint echoes could be picked up at the location of the first. It was as if the two were speaking in a language of vibration, exchanging signals across the seabed, their voices muffled but persistent. Divers who had descended at both locations swore the sensations were identical. The same sense of dread pressing on their chests, the same inexplicable equipment failures, the same uncanny feeling of being observed. For them, it was impossible to shake the impression that these sites weren't merely inert structures. They were active, linked, and perhaps even waiting for something. Researchers began speculating wildly. Some theorized that the anomalies were once part of a single enormous construct, shattered by cataclysm and scattered across the seabed. Others suggested they functioned as twin nodes of a network, perhaps designed to interact with one another in ways modern science couldn't yet grasp. Satellite imagery brought yet another disturbing revelation. When the coordinates of the anomalies were mapped alongside ancient megalithic sites in Europe, faint geometric alignments emerged. The Baltic formations appeared to fit into a wider global pattern, as though they were deliberately placed markers in some forgotten system of planetary design. Even those who resisted fantastical explanations were unsettled. If natural forces had somehow created these anomalies, then nature itself seemed to be following a blueprint, a geometry that mirrored human engineering and even cosmic alignments. One thing was certain: the anomalies were not random. They echoed each other across distance and time, silent sentinels in the deep. And if they were designed to work together, then humanity had only uncovered the beginning of their story. The haunting question remained: if these two anomalies were part of a system, how many more might be buried in the seas? And what might happen if all of them were awakened? As public debate intensified, geologists stepped forward to ground the discussion in earthly explanations. To them, the anomalies were simply glacial deposits, sculpted by massive sheets of ice that once blanketed northern Europe during the last ice age. Over thousands of years, these glaciers ground across stone, dragging, shaping, and depositing colossal debris along the seabed. The anomalies, they claimed, were nothing more than glacial erratics, peculiar-looking but ultimately natural formations. It was a comforting explanation, but one that quickly collapsed under scrutiny. Divers reported straight corridors, circular depressions, and staircase-like grooves too precise to be carved by ice. Sediment samples revealed metallic traces foreign to glacial stone, and when sonar images were compared with confirmed glacial formations, the differences were undeniable.
They also use a multi-beam echo sounder. This emits sound waves that create a three-dimensional image of the seabed.
The anomalies possessed symmetry and structure far beyond nature's usual randomness. Archaeologists offered a different possibility: lost civilizations. Across Europe, legends persist of drowned kingdoms and forgotten empires swallowed by rising seas at the close of the Ice Age. Could these anomalies represent the remnants of such societies, preserved beneath centuries of silt and saltwater? At first, this theory gained traction. After all, human history is filled with lost cities rediscovered in the most unlikely places: Troy, Machu Picchu, even Göbekli Tepe, which rewrote the timeline of civilization itself. Why couldn't the Baltic Sea hide ruins of an advanced yet forgotten culture? Yet even this explanation raised troubling questions. If these were ruins, who built them? The structures appeared too massive, too advanced, to be the work of primitive humans. No tools or artifacts were found nearby to suggest habitation, and their bizarre electromagnetic properties hinted at technology, not simple stonework. That's when a darker possibility emerged. What if these weren't ruins at all, but machines? Devices deliberately placed beneath the Baltic thousands of years ago, their purpose long forgotten, or never intended for human understanding. Satellite imaging revealed that both anomalies sit along magnetic fault lines, areas known for powerful energy flows beneath Earth's crust. Could the anomalies have been positioned to harness those energies, tapping into the planet itself? If so, their role may not have been architectural, but functional. This theory, once whispered only in conspiracy circles, began gaining momentum. Were these anomalies part of a planetary grid, a network of ancient technology designed to manipulate forces we barely comprehend? If so, the Ice Age may not have hidden them by chance. It may have preserved them. And that leads to the most unsettling question of all. If they are machines, then are they still functioning? And if so, what are they designed to do? The moment news of the second anomaly escaped the confines of Ocean X, It ignited a frenzy. Journalists rushed to report it. Online forums exploded with speculation, and the public clamored for images and data. But just as quickly as the information spread, it began to vanish. Stories were pulled, videos deleted, and researchers who had spoken openly suddenly fell silent. Something or someone was moving to bury the discovery. The first sign came when government officials contacted OceanX directly, demanding access to all sonar scans, footage, and material samples. The reasoning was vague, couched in phrases like national security and sensitive maritime concerns, but the intent was clear. This was no longer a matter for private divers. The discovery had been seized by powers far greater than any expedition team. Not long after, military vessels appeared near the coordinates, their presence officially unexplained. Local fishermen reported restricted zones springing up overnight, with patrols warning boats away from the area. For OceanX, continuing their dives became nearly impossible under the watchful eye of armed ships. Then came the personal pressure. Divers admitted to receiving unexpected visits from officials who warned them not to discuss their experiences. Some claimed subtle threats were made, cloaked in polite but unmistakable language. Families of the crew reported being shadowed, strange cars idling outside their homes. Why such aggressive secrecy over what geologists insisted were natural formations? To many, the answer was obvious. The anomalies weren't natural at all. Leaked reports hinted at the reason for the clampdown. Allegedly, the anomalies emitted electromagnetic disturbances capable of scrambling navigational equipment, interfering with sonar, and even disabling military technology. If true, control of the anomalies could represent not just scientific value, but military power. Imagine the ability to cloak ships, disrupt submarines, or jam communications, all from a structure lying quietly beneath the sea. Theories swirled that fragments retrieved from the site were being rushed to classified laboratories. What metals had they found in those samples? What signals had they recorded that demanded secrecy? The silence from governments only fueled suspicion. In the end, the public was left with a chilling reality. The Baltic anomalies had gone from open discovery to forbidden subject almost overnight. For OceanX, the thrill of exploration had turned into fear and frustration. For the world, curiosity had become conspiracy, and behind the curtain of secrecy, one haunting possibility lingered. Maybe the governments weren't trying to suppress knowledge of what the anomalies were, but to control whatever they might become. With official silence and growing speculation, independent researchers began piecing together the evidence. The anomalies' unnatural shapes, their strange signals, and their ability to disrupt modern technology pointed to one unsettling conclusion. These were not ordinary geological formations. One prevailing theory suggested that the anomalies were remnants of an ancient civilization predating recorded history. If true, they could represent the ruins of a technologically advanced culture wiped out during the last ice age. But skeptics questioned how such a civilization could leave no other trace. No tools, no cities, no written language. Only two mysterious formations at the bottom of a frigid sea. Others pushed the extraterrestrial explanation. To them, the anomalies looked less like ruins and more like machines, massive constructs buried intentionally, perhaps left behind as monitoring devices. Their electromagnetic disturbances, their harmonic signals, and their apparent connection to one another resembled technology, not architecture. The chilling possibility arose that they were still active, lying dormant beneath the seabed, waiting for something. Still others considered a third option, that the anomalies were neither human nor alien, but natural phenomena misunderstood by our limited perspective. Yet even the most cautious voices admitted the evidence was too precise, too deliberate to dismiss so easily. If they were machines, the implications were staggering. Could they be relics of a lost war, artifacts from visitors long gone, or even remnants of a defense system designed to protect Earth? And if they were ruins of an advanced human society, then everything we know about history would need rewriting. The unanswered questions were as vast as the Baltic itself. Why were the anomalies aligned along ancient routes? Why did their signals seem to react to human presence? And most haunting of all, if they are part of a system, what is that system designed to do? One thing is certain. The Baltic Sea anomalies are more than just curiosities. They are warnings carved into the seabed, silent messages waiting to be deciphered. And as long as they remain unexplained, the world will continue to wonder whether we've uncovered a forgotten past or a hidden future. The Baltic anomalies challenge everything we think we know about history, about technology, about our place in the universe. Were they built by ancient hands or placed by something beyond Earth? What do you think lies beneath the waves? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep mysteries.